it just me, or has something quite crafty happened at West Ham, almost by stealth? Now, to understand what's happened, you got to go back, travel back in time. If I don't know why I did that. Travel back in time, if you would, with me, to the point where maybe frustrations were growing over David Moyes. Certainly, there were frustrations over the club's recruitment, and it was decided, I think certainly behind the scenes, and we believe that Daniel Kretinsky was a big reason for pushing this forward. It was decided that West Ham would need a more continental approach with a director of football. The rest is history. Tim Steidten came in and we seemed to be moving in that direction, although we never fully did it, did we? We didn't, because even though Steidten received criticism for his acquisitions of Luis Guilherme, obviously Nicolas Füllkrug and Jean-Claire Todibo, who still, could turn out to be a good player, and we hope he will be a fantastic player for West Ham. He was never given full autonomy. Tim Steidten was never allowed to buy everybody, and we could go through the list if you want. But we know Somerville was a David Sullivan appointment. Will Salthouse, we believe. Well, Will Salthouse absolutely did bring Aaron Wan-Bissaka to the club. It was quite clear that Soler, that Kilman, that Guido Rodriguez were wanted by the manager at the time, the head coach, Julen Lopetegui. So there was never full autonomy for Tim Steidten. So you couldn't really say that we ever fully moved over to that model. And actually, if you look at Steidten's first year at West Ham, he was responsible for some players coming in, yes, in terms of Mohamed Kudus. What a great signing that was. But Moyes still had his fingerprints all over it, as we saw with the 12 months ago, wasn't it? The winter loan signing of Calvin Phillips, which we discussed in yesterday's video. So it never actually happened, but the club were moving forward towards that. Now, I don't want to suggest that we have gone backwards, because this might work out. This might be what the club needs, what's about to happen now. But we've certainly reversed our way of thinking, and we find ourselves in a situation now where I think we've got a traditional football manager again. I think not only do I think we've ditched the director of football, I think we have ditched actually the head coach. I think this is it. So David Moyes, as you understand it, as well as I understand it, David Moyes was offered a final contract. When he got his final contract, the contract was, you can stay on, but you'll no longer be in charge of transfers. We're moving in a different direction, so your new contract will be as head coach and not as manager. Ironically, I think that's exactly the thing that Moyes would have wanted, is exactly what Graham Potter has got now. Don't be fooled by Carl Macaulay. Carl Macaulay has come in under the guidance of Potter. Carl Macaulay will do what Potter wants. Now, whether you think that's a good or a bad idea is totally different. Actually, I would probably suggest that the person that's in charge of recruitment working very, very closely alongside the manager is a good thing. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying that we've completely moved away from that, it would seem. And because he's not a director of football, he is a head of recruitment, and that's nothing new. Head of recruitment, Rob Newman was head of recruitment. Tony Henry was head of recruitment. There's nothing new with this at West Ham. And maybe, just maybe, the manager, just having a manager rather than a head coach is better for the reasons that I've just described. What is clear is Potter has come in and he has taken full control. In last night's video, I described the iron fist in the velvet glove. I think there is a strong will to this man. There's no doubt about it. Everything you hear about him, he's a nice man. People say he's a nice man. He's very, very friendly. But there is a strong will. The fact that he could go into negotiations. He was having none of this 6-month thing, a 6-month contract with West Ham. He very much saw it as, in many respects, similarities to David Moyes, where coming to West Ham allowed him to repair his reputation. No way Moyes gets that Everton job that he's just got now off the back of what happened at Sunderland and, was it Athletic Bill? No, it was Real Sociedad, wasn't it? There's no way he gets that gig. He repaired his reputation at West Ham. So I always said that when basically people were suggesting, particularly Moyes' cronies in the mainstream media, were suggesting that he'd done West Ham a massive favour. Well, to be fair, West Ham also done David Moyes a massive favour. He's never had more money to spend than he had at West Ham, and he will never have that again, even at Everton. That's the most money he ever spent in his managerial career will be at West Ham. We were very, very good for him, so let's not make the narrative that just he was very good for us. He's repaired his reputation. And I do wonder if Potter's looking at West Ham thinking that I can repair my reputation there, but I ain't doing it in 6 months. I'm going to view it as a long-term strategy, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. I just find it fascinating how we've immediately moved away. Now, I think we have almost Graham Potter has more power now than even Moyes had, which is crazy when you think that he'd won a trophy. Because what you have now is this situation where he seems to have full control of transfers. In fact, not only that, he's the one that I think is turning around and he's saying, no, I'm not having any interference. I'm only going to have my guys. There's not. In the summer, we had 3 people buying players. You could argue 4 if you want to add the agent in there as well, supplying players to West Ham. He's saying, no, it's going to be me. It will be me, and it will be only me. No interference from agents, no interference from the chairman, no interference from a third-party director of football. No, none of that, just me. Me and my guy, me and... Is that a song? Oh, no, it's not. It's me and my girl. Anyway, he probably sings that song, him and Carl Macaulay there in songs together. And I think that's why the change, in not only in West Ham, in a transfer, within this window, from the first week of January to what have been the last 3 weeks, have been seismic. And not only that, but in the way that the news has been reported, the way that a lot of the stories have stopped, and they absolutely have. There's no doubt about that. There's West Ham is in a state of media lockdown, and it's not just because the head of media has left anyway. Well, that might play some part, but he was never leaking any news anyway, Ian Taylor. Anyway, but there's something else that's really, really interesting about that, and particularly with regard to how the targets have changed. Before I go into that, can I please point in the direction of today's video sponsor, which is Stocks FC. I'm actually going to share, hopefully I'll screen share, I should be able to do it now somewhere on the screen, either there or there. Don't know where I'm going to edit it in yet. I'm going to show you what I've been doing so far. So I've got Wissa, I've got Jared Bowen, I've got me loan players in, and I've made a little profit. I made a little profit of £7, which I'm absolutely chuffed with. Listen, I never, you know this, if you're a regular watcher of the channel, when I do my bets, I'm the type of person that puts £1 on an accumulator bet and hopes to win £15. That's just the way I like to do it. That is betting responsibly, and I would always advise everybody else to do exactly the same. So please do. However, it's very, very interesting, this, and I'm looking. You might have seen at the top of the screen. I'm looking at the moment at Cunha. I think if Cunha gets his transfer and he stays in the Premier League, I think he might be a good one. Evan Ferguson, there is an inclination, a tendency to do that. I'm not going to bother. He's a little bit too injury prone for me. I don't know. I need to find out more about him. I don't think he's a safe investment, but I don't know. You're not really investing in these players. You just buying shares and versions of them. So I'm not sure I'm going to do that with Ferguson, but I'm being very, very careful. Very careful with my... But my 50 pences and my pounds at the moment. If you'd like to join me on this journey, link is in the description below, Stocks FC, or you can use the QR code, which is somewhere on your screen at the moment. If you use the link or that QR code, you basically get 5 loan players, and if their value increases whilst they're on loan, then basically you get the profit, which is no bad thing at all. As I say, link is in the description below. Go and check it out. Right. When Macaulay came in, when Potter came in, I think it was a direct shift, actually. And it was a case of West Ham have been lining up players. We always line up players, and that's the thing. So I think Ezekiel Banzuzi was Tim Steidten and Maximilian Hahn's tip. And Karen Brady was doing the negotiating to try and get him over the line. We made one deal. Now, it looks like we've come in and said, no, we're not doing that. When I say we, it looks like Graham Potter's come in and said, no, we're not doing that. That's an old deal. We're going to do things completely differently. I don't think this necessarily will work, but as a broad stroke, you understand why they've done it, because I think he does look like a decent midfielder, and I think he's probably going to go, the suggestions, he might go to Monaco or something like that. We may well seem like we might have missed out on a player there. Time will tell. You never know. but that was the first one. The Duran deal is hard to really factor in and say there was anything in that Duran deal anyway. What I would say is clearly West Ham knew something. I mean, it was much derided, the fact that we did make a second bid, and the composition of the bid was not good. There's no doubt about it. £45 million plus 12 million in add-ons was not good. But the fact is, we ended up with bids, if the total deal 57 million, and he went for 60 million. Oh, sorry, 66 million. Okay, we must have known that he was still available, and that was the whispers that were out there, and it was always Aston Villa fans pushing back, saying, there's no way, why would he want to leave? And I listen, by the way, I don't know. I don't know why John Duran would want to leave Aston Villa, a club in the Champions League, with a brilliant manager, with a young squad who are improving. What I do know, it's for money, I do know, but I still think... I think he was on. I think his new contract at Aston Villa was 150 grand a week. He was doing all right. He was not doing too badly, So I think I can understand Aston Villa fans saying, why would he want to leave? I get it, I agree, but he did. Now I think West Ham must have known something, must have known what he wanted out or so. That was interesting. But I don't know. I can't imagine Graham Potter coming and saying, no, I don't want Duran or something like that. But the fact he's come in and drawn a line under it, and he's even as much as he said, you know what, even if drawing a line under that, everyone that was there, be it Brian Brobby, be it Ezekiel Banuzzi, get rid of them. I'm not interested. We draw a line here, and anyone from this point on is mine or Carl Macaulay's pick. That's it. Tim Steidten could have identified the best young talent in the world, and he wouldn't have been interested. I think that's what we're looking at there. And what it does is, they say actions speak louder than words. That in itself, him pretty much in his actions saying, I'll wait to get the right guys in the summer, that demonstrates that he's looking at this beyond just a 6-month job, which is what we were initially told. So actions are very much speaking louder than words on that one. And it might not make it the most exciting transfer window, but it does make it interesting, particularly... See, the thing is, you can't have it... With a lot of these things, you can't have it both ways. I understand why people get frustrated with David Sullivan. I absolutely do. I really, really do. Don't get me wrong. But you can't have it both ways that, he wastes a lot of money and he doesn't spend money. So this whole, as I say, this whole thing about Sullivan, he never spends any money. This is typical Sullivan. I don't agree. I think he can't help himself. I think he loves to get the agents involved. I think he loves a deal. He loves to bring a player over. He's always done it. He did it at Birmingham. He's done it at West Ham. He cannot... I don't know why Wellington Paulista always sticks in my mind. He's more than happy to buy a crap player. More than happy. More than happy to give someone, to overpay for a player as well. And we've got so many of these deals wrong. He loves it. You can tell, even last winter, we were hearing all the time, that the board, that Tim Steidten and David Sullivan were saying to David Moyes, come on, what about this guy? What about this guy? We need a forward. What about this guy? What about this guy? And David Moyes was saying, no, I'm not interested. All I need is Calvin Phillips. So that was it. And I think this is really, really, really tough, actually, at the moment for somebody that wants to spend money and wants to do a deal. I think that's why Sullivan stays in football. I think he loves it. So you almost can't have it both ways. You can't say, this guy just wants to run the club. He just wants to be this. He just wants to be that. And then say he doesn't. He loves the deal. I think he's been told to sit on his hands at the moment. And I think it may well be what's right for the club. Although it doesn't make it the most interesting, for videos and things like that. I do think it is quite telling at the moment what's going on. And I think if what he's done is that he's basically said, look, too many cooks, as Potter said, too many cooks are just going to spoil this thing. You sit on your hands. Don't get involved in transfers. I don't want some lucky punt. I did say that correctly. From South America. I don't want a recommendation from Will Salthouse. I just want to get my own players in. And I think that may be what's happened. And I do think that makes it interesting. Now, whether that works or not, we don't know. We can't possibly say because we've not made we've not made a single signing yet, have we? And if we do, great, we would just have to assess them when it comes in. But I am adamant that this guy has come in and he's just grabbed control of West Ham. Maybe that's what we needed. I did used to argue, for all David Moyes' faults, I did think he was a strong personality and he could probably handle the club. I was worried. I was worried about a number of people coming into West Ham as head coach. And Potter would be one of them, by the way, that you've got to have a real strong personality, because I don't think you survive at this club. I think there's so many voices in the background. I think there's so many people trying to get involved that the board of directors is bloated. There's such a complex ownership model. The club are fighting with the stadium. I mean, we've just sued the stadium. Very, very unhealthy situation. When we've won that battle, you do wonder if we're going to win the war on that one. But that's a conversation, a video for another day, certainly. I've changed my thinking on that. I think there is a robustness in Potter. I think he's. I can't remember what it is. It's always someone that corrects me, and there's no point because I always forget. He's got a degree in psychology or something like that. Something like that. He certainly is well versed, and he's been quite studious in looking at the way people think a certain way and why people do certain things and stuff like that. So I think he's a very cerebral man, very, very clever. He's done his research on a lot of this stuff. So yeah, I think I probably had him wrong. I think I looked at maybe what had happened at Chelsea, the way he reacted, some of his press conferences, stuff like that. And I think he is. I think he is very, very strong-minded, and I think that can only be a benefit to West Ham, actually. And I've no doubt that he's learned from his experiences. I'm going to hold judgment. I think tactically he does look to be a cut above anything that I've seen that we've had recently. Let's put it that way. I'd be interested in learning more, and the more I learn, the more I like. In terms of the recruitment, again, I'm only keeping my powder dry and keeping my. I'm not making an opinion yet, really, on it, because I need to see. Because I do believe. Well, it's not. I don't believe. I do believe it because it's the way it is. The model at Brighton was 4 people involved in it, and we've only got probably even more in terms of the back room and the data analysts and whatnot. We don't have them all. We don't have Paul Winstanley. We don't have Dan Ashworth. We don't. Is it Paul Barber? I might have that wrong. There was a number of people who were responsible. We have Graham Potter and his buddy, who's been with him forevermore, who was a data analyst, who then became Chelsea's chief analyst, who is now head of recruitment. Now, don't get me wrong, I've got no problem with people levelling up in their jobs. As you move on in life and you get more experience, you gain extra skills, and I'm sure he worked alongside people that did that, and maybe it would be successful. But I still feel that side of things is quite weak. In terms of numbers, I'd like a more bloated department there. But what I do think is, and this is where I think West Ham got it wrong. We appointed the director of football, but we got it wrong because he wasn't really in charge. And I think that's probably where it fell down. I think if we get to this situation now, we've got Graham Potter and he's in charge. And even if these other people come in, Graham Potter's still in charge. I think if we do that, and you can negotiate through the minefield of buying and selling players, which he has not experienced that, and I don't care what anyone says, neither is Carl Macaulay. I think we're having problems with negotiating. I think we might be able to target players. There's a difference between targeting players, identifying them, and getting a deal over the line. And by the way, West Ham have been bad at this, both historically and recent history, getting deals over, even deals like Lucas Paqueta and deals like that to get them over the line. We have had to bring in third parties to do that. Well, but I'll tell you now, Barry Siltman got that deal over the line. We've now appointed other third parties, not Barry, by the way, but we've appointed other third parties to get some other deals over the line recently, and it's tough. Karen Brady was doing some negotiation. She found it tough. So, yeah, I do wonder if we're going to have to bring somebody in, because Sullivan's not doing these negotiations. Brady's doing some of them, third parties are doing another. So I think maybe that's the next level of it. But whatever happens, the person doing those negotiations, obviously money-wise, they're going to have to be speaking to... They have to be speaking to Sullivan and find out what the finances are. But any deal above £1 million has to be signed off by the board anyway. So I guess there's no change in that. But ultimately, they're going to have to be answerable to Graham Potter. So yeah, I just find it really interesting. It's we have within the space of a week, 2 weeks, ditched the direction of travel that the club were moving in with this director of football thing. That's gone. That's gone. We come back, we modernised, and now we've gone backwards. We've gone backwards to a traditional manager who's pretty much in charge of everything. I was going to say that's not something that's done in Europe. I doubt you'll find too many clubs in England, not at the top level, not in the Premier League level, where it's done like that again. No wonder he wanted this job. There'd be very, very few jobs where Potter could have gone in and got anything other than a head coach role. But make no mistake about it, it might not be his title. You might go onto, I don't even know, I've not looked. You might go onto the website, West Ham website, and find he's not manager, he's head coach. But I will tell you now, it almost, he's got to win the trophies and stuff like that, obviously. But almost in an Alec Ferguson type way, he has very much become the figurehead of this club, and I just find it's absolutely amazing that he's done it so quickly. And anybody that was worried, like myself, that he might be a little bit of a rabbit caught in the headlights, and a little bit timid coming into West Ham. No, he's seen off Tim Steidten. Right, he's gone. He's told the chairman to stop buying players. The favourite agent has been told to stop recommending players. I'm guessing. I can only read between the lines and extrapolate that that's what's happened. And he's put himself firmly in charge. And when he says in his press conference, and he sits down and they said, "Why aren't you signing players?" He said, "Look, this is me. I'll basically saying I'll decide." He's doing it with a smile on his face. He's the smiling assassin. He's doing it with a smile on his face. I will decide. He's basically saying, "I'm in charge. We'll do what I want, and we'll do what I say, because I have the vision to take this club forward." And I actually do think that is a remarkable level of confidence, given how battered and bruised he would have been following what was really a disaster at Chelsea.